Okay, hey everyone. So we're just going to give a few minutes for everyone to join. In the meantime, I would love to hear where everyone's joining from. If you guys want to put in the chat window where you're all coming from, that'd be great. All right. So I got lots of excited people ready to listen in. Thanks, guys. Wellington. Cool. All right, lots of New Zealand and also different parts of New Zealand and Australia. Excellent. Hawke's Bay. Woohoo. Good stuff. Melbourne. Awesome.
Cold in Canberra.
All right. Well, so welcome everyone to the Discover Key Learning Design Trends in the Future of Learning. This is our point of view on the global must-do program for learning in the future of technology. If Anushka, if you could go ahead to the next slide, that'd be great. Cool. So online, we have Kelsey joining us, who's a marketing executive joining us. We have Anush, who's front-end developer. We have Kyle, who's a digital e-learning developer. And my name is Elaine, and I'm the graphic designer. Go ahead, Anush. So what we'll cover is we're going to start off with a bit of a history of how we got to where we are now. And then we'll move on to how content is consumed by learners in today's world. We'll go into a few tidbits in there and hopefully get everyone's imaginations flowing. And move on to modern design in the post-Flash era. And got some really exciting stuff to show you guys there. And then the future of learning. And of course, we'll wrap up with a bit of a QA session. And we're going to try to keep this to a 30-minute presentation so that we can have plenty of time to do Q&A at the end and get you guys to interact and we can get some good talking points going. So if that all sounds good, let's move right along to the history of e-learning and technology, which conveniently is being presented by myself. Right, so on the screen, we have a bit of an infographic that I've put together. Basically, this highlights e-learning and technology, and it's a little bit of a brief history of how we got to where we are today. Now, I've gone pretty far back to 1924, but that's actually when the first LMS was created. At the time, it looked a little bit like a typewriter. Moving right along, the birth of the internet, 1969. I think, it's pretty pivotal in learning and technology. And we have a little bit of a trivia question around that later, so be prepared. 1984, the Macintosh 128K first came out, and that was the first widely available PC. So suddenly people could actually do learning from within their homes. 1990, the first computer-based LMS was introduced. That was created by SoftArc. And we'll leave this up for a minute so you guys can have a bit of a read. But I'll just skip over some of the things we all know, like Google and wireless internet. And then the term e-learning was first used in 1999, which doesn't seem like that long ago to me, but Maybe that's just showing my age a bit. The age of e-learning really began then in 2000, and businesses began using e-learning to train employees. Then we get the likes of Moodle, Facebook, YouTube, which I think we can all agree is a pretty big tool in in online learning. Suddenly we can see things happening online. We can see how people are going about doing these, creating courses and that sort of thing. Then Adobe bought Flash from Macromedia, and that was a pretty pivotal point. And part of the focus of this whole presentation, basically Flash revolutionized development in e-learning at the time, and was excellent for what it needed to be then. But then as we move along to the iPhone, which was, of course, one of the biggest, it was a revolutionary touch technology, and responsive design in 2012, which was recognized as the #2 in the top design trends by .NET Magazine. And now on to, 2013, when Kineo launched Adapt, which is the first open source, widely used, responsive e-learning specific framework. So I think you can see learning and technology has come a long way, and definitely not going to diminish any of the story of how it's gotten here. But it's just really exciting to see what might happen next based on all of this and how far we've come. Okay, so moving right along. Now we have a bit of a few trivia questions for you guys. I'll go ahead and just let you guys answer it, see what you think. I won't read every one of them. I'm sure you'll get tired of my voice by the end of this. So see what you think. Read the first one. Okay, I'll go ahead and read the first one. What year was the first touchscreen device patented by E.A. Johnson? Should I go ahead and read all of them? I've had a request. Maybe I should. All right, it's like pub quiz time. No?
That's the result.
Oh, excellent. Oh, cool. All right, so so our answers, it looks like most people think it was 1989. All right, that's our. Yeah. Okay, so I think you'll be surprised to find out that the answer to that is actually 1969. And then, as a little bit of a bonus question, the profession that it was first used in was air traffic control. It's quite interesting. Okay, what entity commissioned the first intranet? There we go. So that's question number 2. What entity commissioned the first internet? This is really exciting, watching the little answer polls bobbing up and down. There's a lot of there's a lot of people that think it's the Department of Defense, and then a few that think it's the Department of Aviation, which is a really good guess considering that the first touchscreens were used by air traffic control. It was actually the Department of Defense. So well done, guys. Next, what gesture recognition company created the first tablet titled iGesture Pad, and was later acquired by Apple in 1998? It's a bit of a tricky one. All right. Interesting results here. Okay, so the answer is actually Fingerworks, which was a gesture recognition company that specialized in gesture recognition. But IBM's a really good guess, which was most people thought it was one or the other. So well done. Okay, so who first coined the term responsive web design in 2010? If y'all get this one right, I might come over to your house and bring you some candy, because there's no way I could have gotten this one right. We're almost even Stevens here. Okay, so the answers are really fluctuating. Most people have said that they think it's Steve Jobs, which is a great answer, but it's actually Ethan Marcotte, I think is how it's pronounced. So yeah, cool. All right, so now we got you guys going. I think we can move right along to Kyle. Oh, here's the trivia answers. Oh, yeah, okay. You know the trivia answers. Moving right along to Kyle, who's going to tell us how content is consumed by learners in today's world.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora, my name is Kyle and I am a digital e-learning developer here at Kineo. So, my first little topic, or subtopic, is bite-sized learning. With the impending death of Flash coming around the corner, this is a good chance to rethink approaches to creating content for the web. We also get to rethink how people are absorbing their learning in today's world. How can we satisfy their needs and wants when it comes to content creation? Workplace learning is already considered by many to be out of sync with how people prefer to learn. The content is often rigid, long, and only available via a single device such as a desktop. But in today's modern world, content needs to be fit for purpose for the modern day learner needs and wants, where content must be accessible via multiple platforms. Traditional learnings are typically long segments of learning content, which is trainer driven. The focus is on having an even field of learning priorities, which the classic functionality of click next to continue, text-based, single-use content that are typically only accessed by a mouse and a keyboard. In the modern age of the constant change and keeping up with learner needs, we need to look at approaches such as bite-sized learning. This approach turns content into short and meaningful segments that align with the learner's needs, turning content from a single-use structure with most of the content having the same priority level into something that can be reusable, shareable, and where content is learner-driven. The content needs to be broken down into bite-sized, interactive, multi-device learnings where the content is learner-centric, easily accessed on all devices, and when the learner wants to access it. We can produce courses that cost less and in less time than your traditional courses. The human brain is just not wired to maintain focus for hours on end, right? It learns better when the content is delivered in short bursts, with the courses well spaced out to help cement the learning. This approach of bite-sized learning is well suited to this delivery format. When it comes to social learning, it hinges upon group collaboration and interaction. The primary goal is to get the learners involved with the core content and with their peers. Through this social interaction, not only they gain a better understanding of the subject matter itself, but they also learn from the experiences of their peers. Therefore, it's essential to encourage group collaboration through social learning tools. Spark the discussion and then let it run its course. Ask the learner questions that make them interact with each other via posts about the content, or introduce a problem that they can solve it by working collectively. The style of learning can range from forums, discussion groups, comment sections, which can all be configured via the LMS. This approach is perfect if you're looking at interactivity between learners. The world of content delivery is changing so fast, and keeping up with the demand is an everyday task. Becoming irrelevant is considered a death sentence by any company's standards. To stay relevant, especially when it comes to technology, means keeping up with what is trending, technology-wise, in your industry. It's important to know that the extent of your customers' technological expertise and stay on pace with them. Flash is widely used technology to create e-learning content. Are you asking yourself, what will happen to your Flash-based e-learning content in the future? One of the leading tools to create responsive e-learning content is Adapt Learning. The search for information increasingly happens on mobile devices. Device-independent courses allow your learners to start a course on a desktop computer, learn individual chapters on a smartphone, and then maybe take the quiz on a tablet. Integrated via an LMS, the learning process is completely synchronized between the different devices. The rise of web standards and requirements. We have new and exciting tools to work with. One of the latest releases is a product from Articulate. This product is called Rise. This authoring tool uses the latest web technologies, which automatically adapts courses for every device available. It's responsive authoring the way it should be. Articulate Rise is not going to beat some of the bigger kids on the block, obviously, as it's not as powerful. But if you're after a tool where you can quickly create responsive training, then this is a great tool for you. Obviously, other tools such as Adapt, Lectora, Captivate, or Storyline 360 give you much more functionality to change the whole look and feel and add your own interactions. Now, this buzzword of VR and AR, virtual reality and augmentative reality, can actually add quite a bit of value to your e-learning, but it all is targeted at a specific target audience. Some benefits are, if you're trying to teach learners in an environment that are potentially hazardous, for example, let's say you're escaping a fire that has engulfed a house, how would you do that? Would you put the learner in the center of a flaming house and let them figure it out? Or can we implement VR and AR to teach this learner how to escape this situation of a flaming engulfed house? One main interactive technology is interactive video. And I will hand it off to Anush to go more in depth about our interactive video.
Hi everyone, I'm Anuj. I'm a front-end developer at Kineo. So we look at interactive video. When Flash was introduced in e-learning, videos took a big jump. Everybody was talking about videos. We could see interactive elements on the page. User could go and see the videos and do some actions. But we were quite limited in terms of videos in the e-learning solutions. When it comes to interacting with the video content, users have only really been able to play, pause, rewind, and going forward. That's the only thing a user could do previously. Interactive video changes that scenario. This emerging technology combines video content with user input. So actually, instead of just showing the video, users can actually interact using wide range of actions while watching the videos. It could range from clicking on hotspots while the video is playing, or showing users branching scenarios where, depending upon what user has chosen, they will see a different video within that video, or one video could be linked with another video depending upon what user has chosen. To go deeper into this, we'll have a look at some of the examples of interactive videos. So I'll play a video and then I'll explain what has happened in that video and what more could be done into that video to make it more interactive.
Hello there, my name is Peter. I'm a chaperone with ASADA and here is my ID badge.
Hi,
Would you confirm your name for me please?
Andrew Jones.
Thanks Andrew. Do you have some form of photo ID with you?
Yeah, somewhere here. Got a driver's license, will that do?
Yes, that's great.
So in this particular interactive video, what we have done is we have shown an intro video to the learner. So after that intro video, a user is presented with a couple of options. Depending upon what option they choose, we'll move the user to a different set of questions. Now we'll have a look at another interactive video.
That won't be.
So with these kind of interactive videos, you would get an idea like how it would be more interactive with the user. How it will be more interactive to the user and how we can show much more options than a simple video, and how user can interact with the video. So now we can talk about learner-centric design. So with the interactive video, we have given the user an option where they could answer within the video. So learner-centric design is something which is like giving a user more freedom about what they want to learn. So instead of the instructor giving options to users that, okay, this is something I'm teaching and this is something you should know, but instead we'll ask the learner like what they want to know. There would be a good example like where in a particular course there are multiple roles which are shown, but those roles might not be useful to that particular learner. So if a learner could choose what they want to learn, that would be really good. And also in learner-centric design, we need to specify the objectives initially when the course starts or way before the course, so that they know what they are going to cover within that particular course or the module. Users should have a clear understanding of the control so that they could move between different areas of the course whenever they want. And they should have some supplementary items along with the course, like PDFs or videos or resources, so that they could link it back with what they have learned. So we can say that future of learning is like more and more of micro learning and bite-sized learning introduction to the e-learning industry. Gamification added to the e-learning courses so that user will have more interaction. They could see leaderboards, they could score, and they would be able to share like what others are learning within their organization. And with the increasing use of responsive learning, more and more responsive learning platforms are being introduced in the web, just like Carl mentioned about Rise, Adapt, and other authoring tools are also doing a lot of things in this particular domain. AR VR is the next big thing, and also facial mapping could be used for avatars. You guys might have seen a tool by Adobe where you could map the facial recognitions with the interfaces design in Photoshop or other designing tools. So that could be interesting to show animated avatars for your organization in the e-learning course instead of having static images.
Okay.
So that'll be over to Elaine now.
Great. Thanks, Anush, and thanks, Kyle. Cool. So thank you, everyone, for coming. We'd just like to open up the floor to questions now. So if you just want to put your questions in the chat window, we'll look at a few good talking points here. So nothing so far. Really seeing some great comments about the interactive videos. Thanks, guys. Yeah. I think the what's really great about those is how intuitive they are. So we have a great question. I'd like to know what experiences people have had with some of the new learning approaches. Yeah, I suppose I think some of our experience has been like, for example, with the SADA, we were able to introduce interactive video in a very bespoke way to communicate directly with the chaperones who needed to understand the behaviors of how they needed to conduct their, the testing for sports drug testing and that sort of thing. Let's see.
On Megan Power. If not Adobe, what software will?
Okay, so we have, yeah, so from Megan Power we have, so if not Adobe, what software will we be using in the future to develop AR, VR, gamification, etc.? If not Adobe, I don't know. Kyle, do you have a HTML5? I think there's always new softwares being...
HTML5, we've got Canvas.js. There's so many options when it comes to VR and AR.
Yeah, and I think it may not, I mean, I know you say with if not Adobe, but Adobe has lots of other tools that aren't Flash. Adobe Edge, for example, is, the HTML5, it generates HTML5 outputs. What sort of software? Okay, so from Ryan Crayson, what sort of software is used for the interactive videos?
So Ryan, for the interactive videos, we haven't used Rise. There's a tool called Interact, which is internal to Kineo, but that particular tool links with Adapt. With that, what we could do is we have two options. Either we could embed the interactive video within any of the Adapt courses, or we make it the primary output, but it will still use Adapt in the background.
Let's see.
Yeah, so I like the question what says, what should we do about all of our current content that is built with Flash, since it's all going to be irrelevant by 2020, right? So what does that mean for your Flash courses? Well, this is a great opportunity to rethink your development of your content and how can we make this bulletproof in the future. And a couple of answers. So let's say you built some Captivate or Storyline courses. You'd be able to publish those out as HTML5. And if you haven't done it in Storyline and Captivate, the answer would be HTML5 as well. I'm not sure what products you guys are developing in, but I know Captivate and Storyline you can publish out as HTML5 and have a fallback of Flash as well. I don't know if you guys want to add anything onto that.
Along with that, if you guys haven't tried Adapt yet, so that would be a good thing to start working with that. The good thing is it's open source, so there won't be any licensing issues with that. So you just download and start using it. It will be HTML5 output in Adapt, and all the out-of-the-box components are compatible down to i9, and some of them to i8 as well, although we are not using i8. And it's compatible on iPhones, Android phones, tablets, smartphones, desktops, laptops.
Okay, so we have a question from Justin here. Justin Harvey, do you think there's more benefit in creating truly tailored experiences for learners at the cost of multi-device, or are you better off catering for multi-device platforms? Think of video. Okay, it's easier going. Yeah.
3 or 6 now.
Responsive designers need to work in pretty much any form factor. How do you overcome the challenges that come with that? So, so just getting my head around the question there. Yeah, I think there's definitely, I mean, there is benefit obviously in creating tailored experiences for learners, but maybe not at the cost of multi-device, just because of the fact that we're a multi-device world now. And, you know, it depends, I suppose it does depend on your audience, but in many cases, you will have people accessing learning over tablets, sometimes over phones, but certainly, I mean, many people I know still, they'll use tablets at home more than computers, and in their office environments. But I think that you bring up a good point, Justin, that video is a really good alternative in that it can be responsive, fully responsive, yeah. Good question. There are a lot of big, okay, so from Wendy, there are a lot of big Flash courses that might need a redesign, possibly chuck it up and make it more learner-centric. Yeah, I think that in a way, when Flash did first sort of come out in 2005, and suddenly developers could do anything and everything they wanted, and designers, I was one of them. It was like having your cake and eating it too. It was amazing. But we're getting into, our world is becoming much more bite-sized now, and we're expecting information to arrive to us just immediately. And I think that we're not as immediately impressed by some of the animations that Flash would introduce for us. Now we kind of want instant, quick access to information. We want it to be crisp and clean. So I think it's a good opportunity to adjust your Flash courses just to meet the audience's demands for information nowadays. Should we scroll down a bit? Yep. Thanks for posting that link, Kelsey.
I think question comes on top right.
Animation, apart from GoAnimate, what kinds of animation softwares could be used to create animated avatars? Adobe recently did a conference where they talked about some of their new softwares that were specifically created for animating avatars. However, I think they're really leading the charge in that one. Video format in Adapt. I think the video is automatically reformatted to the device. That's
so as I've mentioned before, that Adapt is responsive. So when you add videos to Adapt, we keep in consideration like MP4s, OGG, and WebM, and it will automatically resize according to the user screen. Like if it is a phone, it will resize accordingly, and if it's a tablet, it will be shown in that way. And also, if Flash has been used only for the purpose of interactivity, then we could use interactive video as an option. Otherwise, if Flash is just for creating back and next courses, then we have other components available within Adapt or other tools like text graphic, narrative, hot graphic, where you could still interact with the graphic and see other options as a pop-up, rather than having click and reveal on a Flash course.
Question from Justin.
Yeah, good question from Justin. Harvey again. One of the biggest challenges with implementing any of this new stuff is convincing a business of ROI, return of investment. Do you have any tips for selling new learning technologies to a business that might be more traditional in its e-learning approach? That's a good question. Tips. Do either of you guys have? I mean, I think to an extent, it's they kind of have to progress their technology, or eventually will become obsolete. And I hate to go to that area because there must be more positive ways to swing this.
And
case studies are a very powerful tool as well. Were you going to say something?
And also we could say that in today's world, people are getting more engaged with the web. They are quite familiar how websites work and how you need to access content within websites. So you guys might have seen in the Flash-based or other courses that we introduced help screens or help panels, how to interact with the courses or the modules. But with if we see Adapt, particularly, it behaves on the principle of web, like how you scroll the websites, how you access the interfaces. So that could be really good thing, because users are quite familiar. We have seen scenarios where we have seen increase in the course completions when people have used or people have moved to Adapt from other platforms. Also, a good thing is responsive and cross browser and cross device compatibility of Adapt. We can take a scenario like a user may start a module in the office and he may have time while returning back from work, and it would be good if he could pop up his iPhone or his tablet while on his journey back and complete the course while he's just sitting back in the train or in the bus looking out of the window.
We do have some excellent case studies on the Kineo page that have basically illustrated how employee knowledge retention has increased with some of these new technologies. I think Kelsey will share the link to that. There we go. Thank you, Kelsey. Yeah, thanks, Con. That's some great advice. So yeah, Con's just, for anyone just listening in, Con's just said, find some champions, undertake a small project with the new technology, celebrate its success, which is essentially what case studies are as well. Some great successes.
Okay.
And yeah, great one from Anna. I would try to challenge the business on what they are trying to achieve and whether the current strategy is still appropriate. That's a very good point. I mean, you know, so many industries you can't say your industry is exactly the same as it was, you know, 10 years ago. And Flash first came out over 10 years ago. All right. Okay. Do we have any, let's see. Great one from Wendy. Knowledge retention can be greatly increased by allowing the learner to access bite-sized learning at appropriate intervals. Yep, that completely ties back into the modern world and how we expect everything to be in small chunks, immediate.
Justin, ADAPT is compatible with SCORM 1.2, not SCORM 2004, and TinCan X API is being tested at the moment, so it will be available soon.
Yeah, there it is. Just seeding the content to make it engaging.
I think it's worth pointing out that there are graphic and instructional design approach implications when you're designing for different platforms, you know, across different devices. And and I've always said the key thing, or I've always heard that the key thing is to go mobile first and just focus on the smallest learning, smallest, I don't know, the smallest bite-sized learning. So if you begin with mobile, then it's always going to scale up. You're not going to have issues learning or losing information. Yeah, so that's a great question. We have an interesting blog post about that one. What identity crisis, digital transformation, and the learning designer. So I think Kelsey will put that link up.
Would it be okay to acknowledge that
Another one from.
the learning expenses are going to be substandard and target applicant?
It's another one from Justin. When you say mobile first, would it be okay to acknowledge that on phone, the learning experience is just going to be substandard and get tablet at a minimum?
Even on a mobile phone, all the components in ADAPT particularly are available. So whatever you see as content or visual thing in a desktop will be available on a mobile phone. Maybe it's possible that the component might have restructured, or it would be in a different view, different format.
I think it also is a little bit of a case-by-case basis because I know that we always go through our learner journeys before we begin a project, And oftentimes, like if we're designing learning content for a university, for example, and most of the people who are doing the learning will be accessing it via mobile devices because they're students, we can't say it's going to be a substandard. It has to be, the mobile version has to be the best, or has to be on par with the rest of the learning. So great, thanks for that link, Kelsey. Landscape versus portrait. Justin, we're just going to see if we can pull up an example here of Adapt to kind of show what we're talking about by not compromising the learning, I suppose, when you go down to different smaller devices. Okay, just bear with us a sec. I think, Justin, that's a fair point. You will get, certainly you'll get applications that will target one, either landscape or portrait, one over the other. What we find is best, though, is just a fully responsive page, so it doesn't matter that much whether it is landscape or portrait. Are you sharing?
So we can see this is an example of an adapt output on a desktop. So this is the default out of the box menu page where we could see the topics. And when you select a topic, you will see different components which are available within it. And we can pretty much scroll like a normal website and see all the components within it. This is a question component in a graphical format, just a normal text component, a graphic component, a narrative where you could click on the arrows to move forward and see the content. So now we'll see how it will convert to a mobile format.
Yes, good question, Justin. Thanks for answering, Wendy. Yeah, so Adapt is it's a framework. It's a learning specific based framework.
So basically, this is the mobile layout of the menu where you could scroll and see the menu in a different form. And it is quite accessible from mobile, and you can see all of the content which was available on the desktop. And when you go to the main topic page, you can still have the same pattern of scrolling the page and see all of the components. The only thing is some components might change their format, like the narrative, which I've shown. By clicking on the arrows, you could see the graphic as well as the text. However, over here, you could see the graphic, you could see the arrow buttons to move, but you need to click on the title to see the content. So only the format has changed, how you would interact with the screen, but whatever we need to convey to the learner would be available, whether it's a video or a text or a graphic.
And of course, since it's fully responsive, it doesn't matter if it's sort of landscape or portrait format, just like a website, a responsive website. Do you, okay, so from Rachel Page, do you know of any good training in Adapt? GitHub is so confusing. I'll let a new handle this.
Rachel, if you go to the on the Adapt GitHub page, there will be a link to the Adapt community where people have tried to answer how it could be easily installed and how it could be done. Installing Adapt is not that much confusing rather than having the authoring tool. So I recommend downloading the zip package from the GitHub page rather than cloning and using the GitHub commands and following the steps mentioned in the wiki page.
Great. We're just scrolling through some of these questions, see if we're missing any doozies. This is excellent, everyone. Thank you so much for your collaboration. I think we're getting some really great discussions going here, and I hope we're answering some of the bigger questions around making your content, responsive. I think there's some new ones. So Noosh has just put up a link to the Adapt Framework Wiki page. And then there's a great link from Kelsey on the forums. Yeah. Yeah. I think from what you've said there, Wendy, moving to shorter pages, I think we've found too that it does depend on the client. We've had some clients that want multiple topics with only very small amount of content per topic, but then we've had other clients that are happy with one long scrolling page, pretty much. That's just a bunch of content on the scrolling page. I mean, if you went back probably 3 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe people wouldn't be as happy with the long scrolling page, but now we're completely fine with it. We're used to it as mobile users. Funny, Rachel, shorter pages, good question. I work with a few dinosaurs who are still concerned about the below the fold. Yes, yeah, it does come up occasionally.
Does anyone have struggled with selling the idea of scrolling learning to your business?
And there's, Stacy, tackling the same issue. Does anyone else struggle with selling the idea of scrolling learning to your business partners? Be interested to see the responses. Because I think there's, to some degree, I suppose we like to hold on to what we're comfortable with, and there's, so many of our clients that when they deliver learning, they're used to the next back slideshow kind of view, and sometimes I think it's just hard for them to fathom going outside of that very traditional templated view. Yeah, exactly, Wendy. People having difficulty getting away from the one screen at a time. I mean, having said that, Adapt does have the capability to sort of lock down the next sections so that basically you don't see the next component until you've completed a component. So that is there, and it's so much richer of an experience Yeah, and it does get away from so many instructions for the learners. And that does come back to, I think, user experience. I mean, really great UX should be intuitive. And I think if we have to read a button that tells us to click next, or we have to look for an arrow that tells us to click next, that's a interruption in accessing the learning. Whereas if we just scroll down a page or use our finger to move a page, that's the definition of intuitive learning, because you don't have to think about it. Are there any questions there? That's funny. I saw a presentation once where they got a volunteer to come up and try a program with no instructions. I'd love to see how that panned out, Wendy. Many people would prefer not to read the user manual. So true, so true. I mean, if you can get away with not having instructions, people are bogged down by instructions. They'd rather it just be clear. Yeah, it shouldn't be about speed scrolling or going below the fold. Rather, consider how much information is your learner capable of digesting in one hit. That's a good point, Megan. And I think that also is where it does come back down to your audience and what is digestible and the content. I'm sure, I mean, I'm not a learning designer, but I'm sure I'm sure a learning designer could speak to this better than me, but I would say if it's too intensive content to have all at once, there's nothing wrong with breaking it up into smaller chunks or smaller or different topics, perhaps.
And also, Megan, even if it is a scrolling page, we could segregate the page into multiple sections visually to the learner so that we can have clear diversions or clear separators within it. And every block or every component will behave differently. So it's not that they will scroll and it will be complete. It's not like that. They would actually need to interact with the component and then finish it up.
Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna, if we have one more question, we'll take that, and then I think we'll probably wrap this up. Thank you, Colin. That's a good point. Development of personas. The browser issue, noted those with browser issues. That is another hurdle to a trouble-free learning experience. Has not been resolved in over 20 years. Yeah, I mean, well, a lot of the, I mean, if it's open, a lot of open source HTML5 frameworks are made to be cross-browser compatible. I think Anush could probably speak a little bit more to that.
Tracy, specifically with Adapt, it's been already pre-tested. So all of the out-of-the-box components are being tested in i8, i9, i10, Chrome, Firefox, Android, iPhone, and pretty much all the devices available in the market. On top of that, if someone is doing a development and customizing that one, that could be an issue that they need to do some testing on their end. Otherwise, if you are just changing content and theming it up, then it's pre-tested.
Cool. Great. Thanks, everyone. So we'll have this webinar available for download within. Is it available now? Okay. All right. Resources. All right. Oh, sorry. We do have a resources page. We have a resource page here with a few links, few helpful links. And I know Kelsey's put quite a few in the chat window as well. Thank you, Kelsey. And yeah, so if you want to have a look at these, and like I said, we will have this available for download in the next day or so. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.